Hi everyone. I got a quick 3D graphics tutorial for you today. A couple weeks ago, about a week or two ago, somebody had asked me how you would go about doing a boat going across like a pretty choppy ocean or big waves or something like that. What would be the easiest way to animate the boat realistically across a surface like that? And I've heard that question come up. It's come up many times in the past. And there's a few different ways to go about it, some better for some situations than others, but I've got a way that I've been using for a while, and it pretty much works under all circumstances, and it gives a really good realistic result with minimum work. So I'm just going to load the object that we're going to use. Uh, and here's the object. So in the first layer, it's just this subdivided plane, and that's what we're going to use for the ocean. And then I got the boat. I downloaded this just because I wanted to have some sort of realistic looking boat because it's easier to see how the motion's looking if you have a real boat. Um, and then on the third layer, and for the boat, you'll notice that on the y-axis here, the y-axis is pretty much lined up. 0y is pretty much lined up with the water line for where it would be on the boat. And on the third layer here, I just have this one polygon, and it's also at 0 on the y. And the way I made the size for this is, if you look at the boat, I wanted to put it pretty much where the boat's center of mass was, and where you can mess with a couple different sizes, but you pretty much want to bring the points out to the edges of where the hole is. You can see how I have it here if you look in all the views. But you could try different sizes, but this is what I found worked best for this boat. So that's that, and that's pretty much all there is for the object. So I'm just going to go in the layout. I'm going to load that object. Change my grid size. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to have some sort of ocean. So let me just go into this properties for this, go into the deformations, click on nodes, put it on world displacements. That's important for this effect. I'm going to edit nodes. And we just need a couple nodes here, math, vector scale, and a R-Man collection, 3D textures, windy wave. So I'm just going to go from the alpha into the scale here. And for the vector, I'm just going to put the Y on 10 meters for now. And I'm going to go into take the result into the input. And you'll see that gives me that. Now we got to adjust the scale of this a bit. So I want to turn this on world coordinates as well. I want to invert it. I want to turn the X scale on 1000 and the Y and Z scale on 300. So that'll give me that. That's good enough for what I'm going for, just to demonstrate this. You could be more elaborate with getting more realistic ocean, but this isn't really that bad. To be honest, for getting the motion, I wouldn't want it any more detailed than this. This would be the highest type of resolution I would want to go for setting up the motion. I would use this as like a proxy ocean, and then I would use a more detailed version of this. Is similar, the same texture, but just more detailed to get the final rendered look. But to get the motion, I wouldn't go too much more detailed than this because it's not really necessary. So let's animate this a little bit so it's moving like an ocean would. So I'm going to go into the position. For the Z, I'm going to go from over 600 frames. Let me change my end frame here. So if I go in here and go into the Z over 600 frames, I want to go to 200. And then on the Y over 600 frames, I'm going to go to 50 meters. So you'll see that'll give us a little bit of a pretty decent motion for the ocean. It's good enough for showing you how to do this anyway. Like I said, you could make this way more elaborate to get this to be exactly how you wanted your ocean to be. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is. One thing we do want to do here is we're going to get a DP or a Palms Nodes Tools Store Material. And I'm just going to take this vector in here. And I'm going to go in here. And what that's going to allow me to do is that's going to allow me to use this same exact surface in another object, which is going to be important for this effect. So that's all there is for that part of it. So we have our the motion of our ocean, of our rough seas. So for the next part of this, I want to show how we're going to deal with the buoyancy of the boat. And that's important because you really can do this type of effect without having some sort of buoyancy to the boat. And there's other ways you could go. I mean, to really get it perfect, you would have to do like a full fluid simulation, and it's just not a realistic way to go about doing this. You have to find a better way of doing it. So the way that we can do it, and it works really well, and I mean, it's kind of, tools are made for this. I mean, it's kind of why these tools were made to begin with. But I'm just going to grab that object, the one that's just a polygon, and I'm going to go into the properties, or the window, and I'm going to turn it on wireframe, just so we could, I'm going to make it red, just so we could see it easily. And I just want to demonstrate real quick how we're going to simulate the buoyancy here. So I'm just going to, just for now, this is just a temporary setup, just so I could show you what's going on here. I'm going to add nodal motion to that object. I'm going to go into there, and this just lets me affect the position, scale, and rotation of that object with nodes. And this isn't really have to do with the tutorial. I'm just showing you this because it'll demonstrate how we're getting the buoyancy to work here. So I'm just going to get a turbulence texture, put it on 2 meters. I'm going to put it on 2000. I'm going to put the frequencies on 1. And I'm going to get a tools, make vector. And we get a math, scalar add. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to add about 10 to that, or 15 even. I just want to set up like a noisy motion on the Y here, so that I'm going to get a math scalar multiply, so that you can see how we're going to take care of this buoyancy for this boat. We're going to the position. And then we'll multiply this by 0.5. Okay. So you can see now we just have this kind of noisy motion on the Y. That's all that setup did. It just gave me this kind of noisy motion on the Y. But what I want to show here is how we can get buoyancy to this. And what we can do is we can go into properties, go into the effects. We'll click this soft effects here. And for the deform, I'm just going to put it on local Y. It won't really make too much difference for this particular effect, but that's what we want. And for the operator, for the wave size, I'm just going to put it on 1.5 for now. And I'm going to turn this up to 150. Just I'm exaggerating this effect, just so you can see what's going on here. So now, you'll see if I calculate this, you can see how the motion of the the actual polygon is kind of being, it's like there's a spring connected to it pretty much from the pivot point. And we can simulate the buoyancy of the boat using this same type of principle. And that's what we're going to do. But I just exaggerated the effect there so that you could see how this is going to work. Look, and you could change the settings here. Like I could go to, you can make this more, go to 6 or something, and then take this to 1. And you can see it'll give a different effect. And you can adjust those settings till you get exactly what you want. But what we're going to do, see, I'm doing it on the whole object. But what we're going to do is we're going to deform these points the same as we're deforming the ocean here. And then when we move through the ocean, we'll be able to get that same type of soft effect. So I'm going to turn them off for now, just because we don't want to use that for, and we don't even want our node motion anymore. I'm going to delete that. So you can see now our object's back at 0. And what we want to do, we're going to go into the deformations for that. And I'm going to go into the nodes. I want this on world coordinates. That's important. I'm going to go into the nodes here. And I'm going to say Palms nodes, tools, get material. And I'm going to select our stored material there. And I'm going to take my vector into the vector. And you can see that now our points are displaced to the same points that the other object is displaced. If I put it on wireframe, you might be able to see better. And what's nice is that even when we move this around, so if I hit, you'll see that it respects the motion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here. Before we do that, I'm going to go back to 0, 0, 0. What I want to do is I want to set this boat up a little bit first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this boat back. I'm going to bring that back to 0. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the motion options for the boat, and I'm going to make the parent of that this hard link object. That's that poly object. So now the boat's the child of that object. So wherever I move that object, the boat's going to go as well. So now what I want to do here is I just want to take that link object, and I'm just going to pull it back here for now. And then I'm going to go to 600, and I'm going to just drag it forward to about there. So now you can see, because our boat was the child of that object, it follows the motion of it. But you'll notice that it's not taking into effect the motion of the ocean. It's just parented to the object. It's not taking into account the deformations of the object. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to go back into our link object, which is the polygon. We'll go into our soft effects, turn it back on. And that's just because that's where it was calculated at before. Before I calculate it, what I want to do is I want to turn the wave size up a bit, just to like 1.5. And I want to turn this down to 2. And I want to make the height at 50. And it's only up there because I have to recalculate it since I changed the motion. That's from when we had it connected doing this. And I'm going to test that out for now. So you can see that we're deforming that object and the soft effects is being applied to that. But you'll notice the boat's really not being affected by it, that we're just deforming those points. If I go in the wireframe, you'll be able to see better. We're just deforming those points of the underlying object there. We're not really, the boat's not being affected by it. So the last step in getting this to work is going into the boat there, going into deformation and clicking on hard link. And now you'll see that the boat now nicely follows the ocean, and it works really well. I've always liked this method. I thought it produced the best results for the amount of work that goes into it. And it's really adjustable in tons of different ways. So all we're doing is we're hard linking this boat to that deformed polygon after the soft effects is done to it. And that really gives us a nice buoyancy effect that's really hard to get without doing some sort of full fluid simulation. This really is the best way that I've found to go about it. So that's pretty much it. And like I said, what I would do is I would use, now that I have the motion down, I would use another more detailed ocean with just some more deformations on top of it, maybe smaller deformations. And then that's what I would use to render. And what you'd want to do is you'd also want to do some more, on that higher res version, that's where you'd want to do the deformations of the boat in the water. So you would want to do, and some particle effects off of the ocean, you would just use this for doing the motion, and then you would do a more detailed version to do the deformations and do for the final render. But that's how you could do it pretty easily and get a pretty good effect without spending too much time. I'm just going to do a quick preview. And I mean, would this video take 15 minutes? I mean, I really don't think you're going to find too much better of a method that gives as good of results. Alrighty guys, take care. I'll talk to you soon. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial.